What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to y'all as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. And we appreciate your support and getting us this far. Now, today we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by two people I've been following, admiring, and knowing a lot about for many, many moons, the mighty Ice-T and Spike. Thank you both for coming through today.
Thanks, Soren. What's up?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's always good to see y'all. And we're here for many reasons today, but one of the main reasons is the Split Decision, the book in stores now. So everybody's got to go pick up their copy. And Ice, the thing that's amazing about your story and your history is, of course, there's 3 Ice-T books. So yeah. I got all 3. So as time has gone on, Ice, you know, these books have all been written kind of separate in different stages of your life and your career. So how have you changed and progressed between each one?
The first book was written way back. That was like right in the midst of Ice-T when I was as hot as I could get, you know, and it was called The Ice Opinion, Who Gives a Fuck? And it was my opinions at that time. I think I might have been in my 30s. I was really active as far as music and things. And it was a book that I was really just trying to tell people, whatever I think, it doesn't matter. You know, like, here's my opinion on religion. Who gives a fuck? Because I think people try to push their agenda like it's so important, like they know everything. And one of the things I say is that this is just my opinion. And I think people should be able to share their opinions, but not push their opinion, you know? So that book is everything. It's a chapter, and it's like, this is my opinion on music. Who gives a fuck? You know? Me, humility about myself. The second one was the most recent book. It's just called My Road from Redemption, Hollywood, from Gangster Life to Hollywood, which kind of like was meant to show you the trajectory of some of the changes you have to make to get to where I am and stuff, and mental changes and also business changes. This book was really meant to be Spike's book. Split Decision was written because Spike, one of my longtime friends, childhood friends, ended up going to prison and came home and told me he wanted to write a book. And I was like, well, honestly, man, nobody wants to read an inmate's book. I mean, what makes you special, you know? And, but I wanted to help him. I'm like, damn, so I had to sit up and think about it. Like, you need an angle. And I said, you know what makes you special, Spike? Me and you were on the same path, and I became textbook a celebrity, and you took the rough road and ended up taking a detour through the penitentiary system. That makes you special because it could have happened the reverse way. Let's write this story. Kenny Ivey, aka Pimpin' Ken, was one of my partners. He had a deal with Simon & Schuster. He had just written Little Boozy's book. So I pitched it to Ken. Ken says, I'll walk you right into Simon & Schuster. We went up in there, and he said, man, Ice, man, after 5 minutes, you had them eating out of your hand. They was ready to go. And we got with Doug Century, who wrote my second book. And he's a crime writer. He just wrote one about the Russian mob. He wrote one about El Chapo. So he understands the world. And after about 1.5 years of intense interviews and going over it and editing it, you've written books, you understand it's a lot of work to making a book. We have Split Decision now, and everybody can get it, and we're excited about it.
Yes. And it's a great book on many levels. So I'm excited to talk about it. Now, for Spike, I wanted you to talk about the idea. It's one thing to say, oh, I want to write a book. Ice is going to help me. We're going to make this happen.
Well, no, let's start. It wasn't Ice is going to help me. It was just like, I want to write a book, Ice. What do I do? And early, before we even started, I was like, yeah, but you just don't want to write a book and it just goes in the bin, you know? So I came with the idea to really take it to the next level. And then it was Ice is gonna help me. But his first idea was, man, I just want to write a book. I was like, wait a minute, homie, we got to do this right.
So that being said, Spike, what's of all the things you could have said to Ice you wanted to do, why was a book the thing that you went to him with?
Well, it started back when I was locked up and did all those years. I had so many years to reflect on my life, but the main thing was I didn't know I was ever coming home. And in that process of just surviving, change, all those things that I used to be, I know that my way of giving back would be to help put together this cautionary tale to help someone else. Because my thing was, I was gonna die in prison. I had 35 to life. And like I said, the trump card I had was him. I'm inside. I don't even know what it is to put a book out, but I know the story because the story is authentic, it's us. And so when I got with Ice, you know, Ice is a straight up, let the chips land where they may, black and white, yes is yes, no is no. And at first he's like, no, I don't, you know, like he said, who wants to hear some guy in prison write a book? But when we came with the idea, we sat down, it took us a while. We sat down and we took our time. You know, Ice was like, Spike, be patient. Let's figure a correct angle so that this book serves a purpose. Solidarity, loyalty, redemption, mainly change. So the next kids that choose to make these bad decisions, this split decision we made, that fork in the road, think about what you're thinking about. And so when I got with Ice, we finally came with a plan, and this is it, split decision. And hopefully this book can help someone, some kid, somebody, because I don't want nobody to go through what I had to go through or live that life that I lived.
Yeah, well, one of the great things about Split Decision, which I think is a credit to both of you guys, is your vulnerability and a lot of the insight that you give throughout the book. So Ice, one thing early in the book, I was intrigued. You were talking about how most criminals want to be stars. And why is that important, the attention aspect of criminality?
Well, Spike once told me everybody wants to be special. And I never forgot that. Now, you're going to be special if you're academically inclined and you're the smartest guy in school. You're going to be special. If you're the jock, the athlete, you're going to be special. If you're the most wealthy kid in the neighborhood, you're special. But when you're in the ghetto, being special is difficult. So maybe you're not an athlete. Maybe you're not academically inclined. Some people will say, I'll be special by just being the worst, just being the toughest, just being the most ignorant, just being rowdy. I'm special. I'm that motherfucker. Now, when you get into criminality, whether it's hustling and stuff, there's a paradox. The paradox is I'm about to do something that's illegal, that belongs in the underworld, but I want everybody to know it. This does not make sense. This is the same thing as the kids right now that are on the internet showing themselves selling coke, showing themselves with guns, showing all this extra money that has no trace to it. This is really hustling backwards. The only way to survive in the underworld is to stay in the underworld, which is you don't deal with square people. But that's the problem most hustlers have. They just feel like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna get that money, I'm gonna move into this nice neighborhood. Well, guess what? Your neighborhood, the first thing they're gonna ask you is, this is a $2 million house. What do you do? And as soon as they find out you a hustler, they're gonna call the police. Hey, he's a drug dealer. He's a criminal. You know, your theory of you're gonna blend in with legit people does not work. So I just think it's just a mind fuck. It's like, I want to be famous for being a criminal. All players and hustlers believe people having parades with, you know, that Ice Cube said, I looked at the Goodyear blimp and it said Ice Cube. I mean, this is part of this mindset, but it's the most stupid part of the mindset. And it's the part of the mindset that always sends you to prison, you know, trying to try to, it's infamy, it's not fame, you know? Yeah. Hey, it's the problem, you know? And very, 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 very few people can gain wealth illegally without trying to show it off.
Yeah. Even though it's very different subject matter, it always makes me think of the Razcast song "Remain Anonymous."
Easier said than done. Easier said than done. There's kids that go out and rob a bank and then buy a Bentley the next day. Like in day before they were broke, living in their mom's house. Today they're in a Bentley. The fuck happened? And the police want to know too. You know, one thing somebody always told me, Rich Spike's cousin told me that when you're popping on the streets and everybody knows your name, so do the cops.
Yeah. Well, speaking of cars, Spike, one of the amazing stories that you tell about one of your heists is how you had gotten into the wrong Mustang. And that blew me away, because one thing that I've always found so intriguing about crime and criminality is how many things have to go right for people to get away with it, as opposed to one thing could go wrong and it's over. So Spike, for you, when you were pulling heists and you talk about this in Split Decision, you happened to jump in this wrong Mustang and that could have been it, but you were able to get away that time. But what was it for you when you understood like how much of this was going on, that, man, everything has to be perfect to get away? How did that affect you when you really realized that?
It's funny because, as Ice was just explaining, we have this warped sense of thinking. We think we're invincible even when we're trapped. It's like even when you're trapped, you're still trying to come up from under being trapped, and you have this false belief that you can actually do it, like walking through walls. And even in that instance when I got trapped, was me and my cousin, we paid for the crime already. So we did that particular crime. And then when I came out, I was always an athlete. I played baseball. So I kind of like was ahead of my cousin. And when I jumped in that car, I mean, that's lottery ticket numbers. One in them, a zillion. The other car, the getaway car was 2 cars away, a few feet away. And I instinct, okay, there's the car. Then to open the passenger side and jump in, I'm like, okay. And then I look and see my cousin run right past that car. I'm like, what the fuck? But at the end of the day, the millisecond, the way I thought was, okay, I'm surrounded by people that's going to apprehend me or hold me there till the police come. And I go into my acting role. And then I open the door, I spoke like I'm a square, like a young, innocent kid. And I slammed the door into the guy and get back on my feet and continue on to try to get away. And I did. But the point is that we have this warped sense of we could do anything, which ends us down that cliff.
Yeah.
Eventually, I got caught.
You know what it is, Soren? At some point, Spike's ego got so big, right? All the years I've known him, his name was Spike, right? And a lot of times in the street, you don't even know people's real name. You know, we don't even want to share what we call our what do you call our government?
A government name.
You know, so you could be around cats in the hood for life and never know their real true name. I didn't learn a lot of my friends' name till I took them on tour and had to get paperwork for them. I'm like, who the hell is Fred?
You're like, we're booking this flight. Who is Fred, by the way?
Yeah, who's Humphrey? Like, what the fuck? Oh, that's Big H. That's Big. Oh, that's Humphrey. Big H. But anyway, Spike changed his name to Magic. This was an ego play. At one point, his brain. What made you? I never asked you. What made you change your name to Magic?
Well, because at the end of the day, I had such a success rate at hitting these licks and continuing on that I didn't even see myself. I felt I was like that warped sense of believing. I could walk through walls. I was magic. Like whatever I put my mind to in a millisecond, it's going to get done. And that was the recipe for disaster.
That's that intoxication. Now,
yes,
Ice, for you, you had Crazy Trey, you had Ice-T, you had Tracy. What were the different mentalities when you were Crazy Trey versus when you were Ice-T?
Well, Crazy Trey just was when I I went to Crenshaw, and I was involved. I was surrounded by gang members, and I had to come up with a hook name to make people stay up off my bumper. So, you know, if you think somebody's crazy, that means anything could happen. Now, first off, you got to remember, I'm light skinned. I got hazel eyes. My real name is Tracy, which in the hood they say that's a bitch name. So to avoid fights, I just turned it to Trey, just because, you know, when you meet a guy and he say that's a bitch name, you got to get off on him right then, let him know, you know, I had to let him know everything with light skin and light eyes ain't to be fucked. You understand? So Crazy Trey was just kind of like, I was never a gangbanger, but it was when I was amongst the gangs, you know, so that they would just get, okay, this is a crazy motherfucker right here, right? But then as I started getting into the player lifestyle, hanging around cats wearing perms and tailored clothes and things of that nature, Ice-T came because I used to quote Iceberg Slim. And after quoting it enough, people would say some more of that Ice stuff, T, or say some more of that Ice stuff, Trey. And that's where Ice-T came from. So I would say Ice-T was born maybe in the 11th grade, 12th grade. And my friends call me Berg. They know Ice-T is short for Iceberg. And, you know, that was that transition away from what early was the gang indoctrination, where everybody was gang banging, to the hustler lifestyle where Iceberg was born.
Got it. And I think too, with the names and the different personas and things, Ice, I think it's, as with Split Decision, this is part of what makes the book so great, of this happenstance thing. But I wanted you to explain the significance, Ice, of part of the reason, if not the reason, why you got your deal with Sire. And I know this from talking to you over the years, though, was that you were the one that wasn't signed of
Right.
the other members. So what, when you think about that, that is a real fact, an actual fact, how does that make you understand and appreciate the evolution of your own career?
Luck has a lot to do with it. Just being at the right place, you know, they say, you know, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So I was prepared to go when that deal came, but, you know, the full story on it was after I dropped 6 in the morning, Africa Islam said, if you want to break in New York, you got to come to New York. And I came to New York and they dug it. And a brother named Ralph Cooper Jr., whose father had something to do with the Apollo Theater, was like running around acting as manager and an agent. And he's like, I'm going to take this bundle of groups to Sire Records. He had Grandmaster Caz from Cold Crush Brothers, Melly Mel, Donald D., who was on Ventertainment, who had the song Stick Up Kids and B-Boys, a kid named Bronx Style Bob, and myself. Well, Caz still had a deal with Tough City. Mel had a deal going on with Sugar Hill. Donald had a deal with Ventertainment. Bob had never made a record, and I had records out, and I was indie, and Seymour just said, I'll take Ice-T. And I think his ignorance of not knowing you can't rap from the West Coast, that only New York on hip hop, got me in the door. And being one of the first West Coast artists to break in New York and get signed to a major label, had a lot of luck was involved. But I was in the right place, and the preparation had been done. I already did the work. So when I got the deal, I was ready to make an album.
Be sure to check out The History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
There's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The history of gangster rap in stores now.